Queensland calls it transfer duty, but most still call it stamp duty. Whatever you call it, it's one of the biggest costs when buying a property in Queensland. And knowing exactly how it's calculated can save you from a very nasty surprise at settlement. Stamp duty is usually the biggest line item on your settlement statement after the deposit itself. It's also the one everyone forgets to factor in until they're squinting at a quote and wondering why they need to find another $10,000. Here's how Queensland transfer duty actually works, what concessions you might qualify for, and how to avoid the traps. If you'd rather just punch in the numbers, in our blog we've got a stamp duty calculator. It handles the most common scenarios: owner-occupier, first home buyer, investor and foreign buyer, using the current Queensland Revenue Office rates. In Queensland, stamp duty is officially transfer duty, the tax the state collects when property changes hands. It's paid by the buyer, calculated on the contract price and lodged with the Queensland Revenue Office, QRO. The rate you pay depends on three things: the purchase price, whether you'll live in the property, and whether it's your first home. It's usually the biggest upfront cost after your deposit, so knowing roughly what you're up for before you sign the contract is pretty important. Note, a good banker or broker will help you find this information out early, ideally at the pre-approval stage. If you're buying an investment property or buying through a company or trust, or you're not going to live in the property, you'll pay general transfer duty rates. It's a sliding scale. The higher the price, the higher the rate. This, guys, starts from up to $5,000 where you pay no duty at all the way up to millions of dollars. In the blog, we put the breakdown of all the different tiers. But for example, on a $750,000 investment property, you'll pay around $26,775 in general duty. That's a lot of dough. Now, the home concession. Are you buying to live in it yourself? You qualify for the home concession rate, which is noticeably cheaper than the general rate, especially on properties under $350,000. Good luck finding one of them these days, though. The first band drops from 1.5% all the way down to 1%, and the concession stacks up from there. The catch is you have to move in within 12 months of settlement, and you have to live there for at least 12 months, move out early or rent it out within that window, and the QRO claws back the general rate. So if you're planning on buying a place, living in it for a few months and then renting it out, don't claim the home concession. All right, next is the first home concession. This is the big one. If it's genuinely your first home anywhere in the world and you meet the eligibility criteria, the first home concession can knock your transfer duty all the way down to zero. Established homes up to $700,000, full exemption, you pay $0 in duty. Established homes between $700,000 and $800,000, partial concession on a sliding scale. Anything more than $800,000 and you're wealthy and you can afford to pay just like the rest of us and not get the benefit of the first home concession. Brand new homes on contracts dated 1st of May 2025 or later, full exemption, no price cap, and vacant land to build your first home on, full exemption, no price cap. To qualify, you've got to be an Australian citizen or permanent resident, over 18, and move in within 12 months. You also can't have owned property anywhere in the world, not just Australia. So if you've owned a studio in London in your 20s, or you've inherited a block of land in Greece, you are disqualified. It's worth flagging if your situation is unusual, because the previously owned overseas test trips people up and then you have to find money to settle. Foreign buyers and the 8% surcharge. If you're not an Australian citizen or permanent resident, additional foreign acquirer duty, AFAD, adds 8% of the property value on top of whatever your standard transfer duty is. So on a $750,000 home, the home concession rate is $19,600. AFAD, an additional 8% of $60,000. So you're finding $79,600. That's a $60,000 gap. Rules around companies and trusts with foreign interests get complicated fast. If there's any foreign ownership or control in the buying entity, AFAD can apply. You need to get advice before you sign. Now, when do you actually have to pay? Transfer duty is payable within 30 days of the contract going unconditional, not at settlement. In practice, most buyers pay it through their solicitor at settlement and the solicitor lodges everything with the Queensland Revenue Office. But if settlement gets delayed past that 30-day window, interest and penalties will tick up daily. This is one of the things we handle for you as part of the standard conveyance. So you're not fielding Queensland Revenue Office letters and fees on top of everything else. Guys, our calculator covers the most common scenarios, but there are scenarios that aren't clear, like off the plan, mixed use properties, partial interest transfers, related party discounts, deceased estates, trust structures, or previously owned a home overseas. If any of these apply, the number your solicitor calculates can be meaningfully different from what an online calculator could give you. Worth a quick call before you sign anything. Couple of quick traps and then we're done. Claiming the home concession when you shouldn't. If you're buying as an investor and you tick the owner-occupier box to save on duty, QRO will eventually catch it and send you a bill for the difference plus interest and penalties. Not worth it. forgetting that a unit trust purchase triggers AFAD. If any unit holder is a foreign person and their combined interest hits 50% or more, additional foreign acquirer duty applies to the whole transaction, not just their slice. And missing the first home concession by a few dollars. On an established home at $701,000, you can lose tens of thousands of dollars in duty compared to $700,000. Worth negotiating hard to get under the threshold. And last one, settling late and forgetting the 30-day clock. If your settlement is delayed for any reason, after unconditional, the Revenue Office interest starts accruing 30 days after settlement at a daily rate. A good solicitor will know this and give you your options so that you're not paying unnecessary funds. All right, wrapping it all up, guys. Stamp duty is not rocket science, but the concessions and exemptions do matter, and the difference between the general rate and the home concession rate on a $650,000 house is about $23,000. It's worth getting it right, or at least understanding. If you want a ballpark figure, our calculator will get you 90% of the way there in about 15 seconds. If your situation's anything other than standard, then give us a shout and we'll run the exact numbers on your contract before you sign. Guys, if you go to the blog, we've got a few working examples on there. We've also got some FAQs that you can click and read. It's very simple. There'll be a link in this video to access. So that's it. Stamp duty, bit of a boring topic, but if you get it wrong, you'll have to find lots of money to settle your property because you can't avoid it. Well, guys, this one is good to send to a friend that is looking to buy and wants to work out how much stamp duty they have to pay. Empire Legal, we've helped 16,000 clients over the past 8 years. We got 3,000 Google reviews with a 5-star average. That's it for this week, guys. We'll see you next week. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep in mind that all advice is general in nature and does not constitute legal advice. This is authorised by George Souris, Empire Legal, Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia.